Once again, I'm with Brenda Weiser, who's board member of MCIEF, one of the original volunteers, and boy, have we ridden your back hard.
I've been around for all of it. Yeah.
Well, you know, you got to learn to say no, because every time we ask Brenda to do something, she does it magnificently, including, as an example, the evaluation of our Pete Gunn Scholarship candidates. That's just an example this past year. I want to thank you for that work. Brenda, the TRS designation, the Transportation Risk Specialist, is obviously one of the first things that Tommy thought about when he formed MCIEF. And so here we are 10 years later. And what Beth Medina, who is one of our staff members in Fort Myers, would say is the desire for the designation has exploded.
I could definitely agree with that. I want to say I've had my designation, I was thinking it was about 10 years. So maybe it's about 8 years now. Sorry, I didn't look at the date. But you know, back then it was exciting to get the designation because there wasn't a lot of focus in just the transportation space. So I could get all kinds of designations just for insurance, which are all fantastic. They're all helpful. But at the end of the day, if you want to be a specialist in transportation, you need someone that can train you on those specific coverages and needs of a motor carrier. And that is different than any basic training you're going to get in, you know, other insurance segments, which again are all valuable. But this was the first time I had ever seen something that really just went to the heart of the motor carrier, and we never swayed off that topic. And we could talk for days. I mean, these, you know, our classes last days. It's not like it's a 2-hour course; it lasts days. Of information that you need to know about motor carriers. But what's interesting is when I first got my TRS, all the time when I would put that in my email signature, people would say, "What's a TRS?"
Yeah.
And you know, what's interesting is people are now looking for people that have signatures that have a TRS designation in them, and they know what it is, and it already sets a high bar for the person that's signing with a TRS. So you know, I think if anything, it's really helped improve the professionalism uh, of the industry as a whole with regard to motor carriers and their insurance.
So there is substance behind the letters. It's not fluff. And
That is right.
and day to day in your firm, and you have a lot of TRS designees in the company that you work with. Do you think it benefits everybody that works for you? And do they come back and tell you anything that supports what I'm asking?
Well, a couple stories I'll share on that topic. So I think a lot of times that people, you know, may get the impression that, hey, I'm new in the industry, and so this is a way for me to learn about motor carrier insurance. And that is very, very true. And I encourage anyone new to this insurance industry with regard to motor carriers to start with a TRS designation because it gives you a good basis of all coverage. But the story I'm leading to is what I find most interesting is the folks that have been in the business for 5, 10, 20 plus years. And they are just now learning about the TRS designation and what goes into getting it, the classes that you have to take. And you get the feedback from them after they've taken a class. And it's like, wow, I didn't realize I wasn't interpreting this section correctly. I didn't realize that this was out here for motor carriers. You know, maybe it be a vendor or, you know, somebody that looks at FMCSA data. And I think that is what excites me more than anything, is that anyone at any level can come into the TRS courses, and they're going to learn something, and they're going to be better immediately the next day. You know, all of a sudden, what they thought they knew, they now have total confidence. Because not only when we're doing these classes are we talking about the coverage forms, we're talking about real life examples of how those coverages go into effect. So again, I think it's the designation is unusual in that it can affect everyone from the newest person in the industry to an extremely experienced person in the industry.
I think the designation represents the very best of MCIEF. In other words, MCIEF fills a real void in the property and casualty insurance industry. For those of us who have earned our living working with and for motor carriers and for insurance companies and for firms that support firms that take risk, what we've learned, I don't think I could have learned it anywhere else, Brenda. That's would be my point back. And for the folks that took it a step further and said, I really want to learn more than just a good base amount that MCIEF teaches. I want to push the boundaries and the limits. Those are your TRS folks. And the explosion that we see now is that you hit the nail on the head. You don't have to explain what it is anymore when it's after your signature. And rather the folks that don't have it. And the last group that I spoke with as I was leaving a meeting said, gosh, I have to get my TRS because my competitors have it.
Right, right. And that is a really, really good point there. And I think you're starting to see that definitely the groups, and by group I mean the agencies, the wholesalers, the insurance companies who want to make a difference in motor carrier insurance. They are the ones that are really leading the charge as far as, hey, this is the type of education that is definitely needed. You know, it's interesting, John, and I'm sure in your career you'll confirm this, but you know, we spend a lot of time teaching people how to sell. We spend a lot of time teaching people how to service. You know, here's how you do it. Here's how you close a deal. Here's how you do an auto change. And you know, at the end of the day, that may be a good majority of the work that we do in this industry. But our job is to take care of the motor carrier. So when that unusual question comes on the phone line, hey, I've decided to start hauling intermodal today. Or, hey, I'm going to let my buddy down the road borrow a trailer. That is when the rubber meets the road. That's where you need people that understand how that insurance coverage affects motor carriers' operations. It's not taught in a sales school. It's not taught in a service school. It's not really taught in just general insurance education schools. That's why you need to come to very specific training so that when those questions come to you, you have an immediate response and you feel confident about the information that you're giving to the motor carrier.
Brenda, I wasn't sure exactly if you could articulate perfectly. Yeah, I knew you do a great job, but you articulate so well what is important to us about the transportation risk specialist designation. Just like we've all evolved, the TRS designation has evolved. It will continue to be fresh information about what's most important for the most dedicated experts to study. And you have made a huge difference to our organization, to your organization. And I think you represent very well what a transportation risk specialist does for the property and casualty insurance industry. And I thank you for your time today.
Thanks, John.
Okay.